Hello and welcome to this new recording. Just want to let you know that right off the bat, this is something a little bit different than what I normally do. This was an idea that I had the other night that I wanted to try, and I want to know what you think about it. So if you can do me a favor and let me know in the comments what you think of this story that I wrote. It is a little bit different. It is more like yourself walking into a nightmare. I hope you enjoy. You walk into the house. It is the first time in years. Immediately, the familiar smells of the house hit you. You smell the furniture and leather. The subtle hint of charred firewood still hangs in the air, never having fully escaped with the rest of the smoke and ashes from prior blazes in the old fireplace. It is spring, though, now. No fires have been lit for several weeks and won't be for many months. However, the scent, it still lingers. You walk through the living room into the kitchen. The painting still hangs on the wall above the cabinets. A boat with large sails floating through a rough sea. On the opposite side of the canvas, a blue sky with calm waters. Below, there is a quote hand-painted in thin, looping, white letters. Life is like the ocean. It can be calm or still, and rough or rigid, but in the end, it is always beautiful. Author unknown. The painting brings a small smile to your face. You remember the painting well. You remember seeing it all the times you were in the house previously. The scene was always like a warm welcome each time, and it is yet again, all these years later. You hear voices in the next room that carry their way to you. It is the sound of your family, and they too are reminiscing, mentioning all the times prior that they have been in the house as well. The house was your great-grandmother's. You and your family moved away, and you had not been there for many years. You missed it, but there are some other things that you didn't. Those are in the other rooms, the rooms upstairs, where you dare not go if you mustn't need to. All these years later, those rooms and what leads to them sends a shiver that slides down your spine, cold and uninvited. The dozens of porcelain dolls, with their emotionless smiles and their black, lifeless eyes. Thinking about them causes the hairs on your necks to prickle. You begin to remember when you were much younger, just a small child, how those eyes would watch you, follow you. As you walked up the stairs, you pushed your back against the railing, which was your feeble attempt to keep your distance as far away from those lifeless, obsidian eyes as you could. You recollect how your young mind would create enough bravery to take each step. Should you walk slowly and watch them, or race up the stairs as quickly as your little legs could go? Would you be able to escape their hands stretching out for you, trying to carry you to the other side, the side where the lost are never seen again, where the lost watch the living through those miniature, coal-colored eyes? You exit the kitchen. You pause in the hallway that leads to the dining room, as well as the staircase on the opposite side. You begin to hear whispers, dozens of tiny murmurs, inaudible secrets passed from each to the other. They recognize you are back. They sense your fear, your delicious fear. It is like a scent, a pheromone fear is. It steams off you like vapor on the hot pavement from a passing rain shower in the high heat of summer. The more you are afraid, the deeper the fear, the more it expels from your bones, allowing only those that crave it to inhale its sweet aroma. This is what keeps them alive. But only in your thoughts, right? Of course, the dolls aren't alive, you think. You're older now, wiser. But those childhood fears remain deep and rooted, as they always have. They still hold their stringy fingers planted in the deep recesses of your nightmares. A thought works its way inside you, a whisper that has been repressed for longer than you can remember. Don't touch the dolls. She will know if you do. And the more you think about it now, you realize that you've never seen anyone touch the dolls. They walk past them, unnoticed, the same way you would walk past ugly wallpaper in a hotel hallway. You know it's there, you see it, maybe even have brushed your hand against it as you walk to and from your room to the elevators. But you never really paid any attention to the details after the first time you saw it. You sense there is something to these dolls, these sentinels at the top of the stairs watching you as well as everyone else. Tonight, your family had planned to stay at the hotel nearby, a large Sheraton that resembled a castle when you drove past it earlier. At the last moment, it was decided that you would all stay in the house tonight. Why pay all that money when you have a perfectly good house to sleep in? Your grandfather said earlier to your mother. She would want it this way. Your mother smiles. She looks at you, then your father. But you notice her apprehension. You notice the thin, fake smile your mother does when she doesn't want to say yes, but does. Yes, she would, your mother says, as she stands and walks out of the room. You don't want to. You are terrified to stay inside this house. But at the same time, this would allow you to do what you always wanted to do in the first place. You've planned this for years, and tonight will finally allow it to happen. Several hours have passed now. Your belly is full from the large dinner you enjoyed earlier. The coffee and desserts have long been cleaned up as well. It is time for bed, time for you to find your way to the bedroom at the top of the stairs. You feel a surge course through your body. Is it fear? Adrenaline? A bit of both? You wonder while also appreciating it, using it to walk your way up each creaky step. You gaze up and see the dolls. They are suspended on their stems, propping them up, motionless. You again begin sensing their gazes, watching you. You look away, gripping the railing with your right hand. The last step is always the most difficult. The last step before reaching the upstairs hallway that leads to the bedrooms. This is where the dark-haired doll with the crack through her face stays, still there after all this time. Her red flowered dress is, however, covered with a layer of dust, but it is there nonetheless. You've always been terrified of this one. After all, it was you that caused the crack in her porcelain face. A shiver crawls up the base of your spine. It feels cold. You lower your head, shrugging your shoulders, attempting to brush away the tremor in your body. You are brought back to the memory of being 3 or 4 years old. You were in the bedroom, the same bedroom you will be sleeping in tonight. You were on the floor, sitting on the white oval throw rug that covered the dark, stained hardwood floor of the bedroom. You had a toy or figure in your hand, something you were playing with as your parents and other guests were downstairs, talking, eating, doing the things adults do that young children don't fully understand yet. That was the first time you saw her. She, the dark-haired doll, was placed on the table beside the bedroom door, propped up on her holder as well. Her head hung loosely to her side, and even then, even so young, your young mind believed she looked dead. You remember how the temperature of the bedroom dropped at that moment, so cold you could see your breath in the room. Your little body wanting to run from the room, but you couldn't stop staring at the doll's black eyes. How they looked so shiny, but at the same time dead. They burned their way into the floor below her crooked doll neck. After many moments, it seemed, but perhaps only seconds, you finally built up the courage to run downstairs to the living room to return to your family. And as you stood, the doll's head moved. It looked at you. As sure as you were then, you are now. You saw the head straighten and begin looking at you. And you wanted to scream, you wanted to run, but her horrifying gaze caused your body to freeze. You saw miniature, pinhole-sized white dots emerge in those black eyes, how the blackness of them almost reflected something inside them, as though they were opening. Then a grin began to form on its porcelain face. You dropped whatever toy was in your hands. It hit the rug, and as though this was a cue, the door to the bedroom slammed shut. You were stuck in this room with her, locked in for how long? You began screaming and kicking, but no one heard you. No one came to find you, to rescue you. You screamed until you could taste blood in your throat. And finally, you took the toy you had dropped. You picked it up off the floor next to you, flinging it as hard as your little body could allow. It hit the table, making it wobble. The dark-haired doll fell to the floor with a loud thud and strange crash. The thud was too loud for a doll, however. It was like the thud of something that was alive but was no more. Blood began to flow from the crack of the porcelain face. You watched it as it pooled around her, mirroring the closed door and its reflection. Then, finally, the knob on the door turned. In ran your mother. "What just broke?" she yelled. Your tears streaming down your small face. Your mother looks below her and sees the broken doll on the floor by her feet. There was no blood, however, and there was no weight to the doll as your mother picked it up, shaking her head nervously. "I should have told you to stay out of here, to stay downstairs," your mother scolds you. "These dolls are very special, they're very fragile, and you broke it. She will not be happy." And you wanted to say it was an accident. You wanted to say how the doll scared you, how she slammed the door on you. You wanted to tell your mother how the doll looked at you, how it was alive, but your voice was hoarse. It hurt to talk. Later, you watched as your grandfather glued the head back together. You remember how meticulous he was, like he was performing surgery on it. Your great-grandmother watched from the side of the room, leaning against the wall, watching him, watching her son glue the doll back together, her hands clenched together tightly, as though she was in prayer. From that moment on, the doll never went back into the bedroom. It was then placed on the table at the top of the stairs, the table you are staring at this moment. The old memory begins to fade, bringing you back to now, bringing you back to this moment. Tonight, you decide, you will destroy her. Perhaps this will be the process that will finally dispose of this darkness, this irrational fear that you still carry with you. Maybe this will permanently stop the nightmares, where anyone and everyone in your dreams looks at you with the same black eyes as these dolls. You listen as the sounds of the old house still settle. Even now it groans, a century after the house was first built. The moonlight shines in the bedroom window as you slowly rock back and forth on the old wooden rocking chair in the corner of the bedroom. The voices in the house are hushed. Everyone has turned in and should all now be asleep. You slowly open your bedroom door, grabbing the dark-haired doll with you as you float silently down the staircase out the back door. You take the dark-haired doll, tossing her on the ground. You crush her face under your boot heel. You then toss her doll body into the makeshift fire pit near the patio, filling it with flame. You douse the dress and fabric of the doll in lighter fuel and watch as it burns under the moonlight. Once she is just ash smoldering at the bottom of the pit, you return to the house, placing the remaining dolls of the staircase inside the large box at the foot of your empty great-grandmother's bedroom. She used to call it her hope chest. She said, "You put things inside you want to keep safe." This is what you want. You want the dolls to be safe, safely hidden away, never to be seen again. You creep back to your bedroom, shut off the light, and sleep. You awaken a few hours later. Darkness still lingers. It is not yet morning. You notice the sounds of voices in the hallway outside the bedroom door. Loud whispers, but futile in the late night. You open the door to see your parents and your grandfather. They look at you. Concern lines their faces. "What have you done?" Your mother asks. Her eyes are pink, tears building in them. I told you, her voice rising. "She would know if you touched the dolls." Confused, you reply, "But she's gone. Great-grandma. She passed away years ago, Mom." "I never meant great-grandma. Great-grandma protected all of us from her, which is something we can no longer do. I meant her." And you watch as your mother points behind you into the bedroom. She puts her head down, as your father and grandfather do as well. They cannot look inside. They are frozen, as you were all those years ago. The hairs on the back of your neck feel like wire as they prickle against your skin. You swallow, not wanting to turn around. You hear a sound, a breath. Something is behind you. You turn slowly, closing your eyes as you do. Finally, you open them. The face staring back at you is porcelain. A crack runs down the face through the right eye. Her dark hair flows in the air as though she is underwater. You look into her eyes. They are blacker than a starless sky. She frowns at you, then gently touches your face with her hand. All the sound fades from your ears, and you fall backwards, but you do not land on the floor as you expect. You land on something soft. You look next to you and see dozens of faces looking at you, their eyes black as coal. You look up as a hot tear falls from your mother's face to you, but it doesn't touch your skin. Instead, it bounces off your face, your cold porcelain face. Your mother closes the hope chest. The dark-haired doll stands behind her, nodding her head back and forth, dismayed, angry, her neck crooked. Your mother's cries are the last things you hear before everything goes dark and your eyes fill with darkness.